What's up, guys? This is Lemon Sweet Tea, and we are back at the house, as you can see, for part 2 of my DIY how to build a deck. And in this section, we're going to cover framing and decking. And I'm going to have you guys along for the ride so I can show you how to do it. So coming down this run of boards right here, you can kind of see where the original deck would have sat. It basically sat at about this level right here. Well, I want the deck now to sit at floor level all the way around. And so for that purpose, I've raised it up about 2 inches. What I'm going to have to do now is finish running. As you can see, to do that, I've had to cut the batting off a little bit higher. That way I've got room to lay the deck boards right on top of all this. And I'm going to have to do that all the way down. But once that's done, I can hang the other backer board. I can fully secure them with lag bolts to where they won't come out of the wall. And then I can start running the rest of the deck. And once that is done, I can get everything framed out and I can get the deck boards laid. Well, guys, as you can see, I've made a little bit of progress here. I've got my main posts set. I've got a couple more that I'm going to put in between these 3 here, just to give a little more structural integrity. Went ahead and set the outer run of boards. That way I'd have something to attach the floor joist to. Now you're probably wondering why on earth I bought such long posts. Well, there's reason for that. When I build a deck, I like to make the rails, when it's all said and done, integral to the deck rather than just attached almost like an afterthought. I like to build them and attach them to the posts themselves to where they won't move. But before I can move any further, I got to finish laying the joists, and to do that I've got some measurements to do. Once you get your outer run taken care of, you got to set your 16-inch center line, and it's probably one of the easier things to do. Basically set it on the outer edge of the deck, which for me is all the way down here on this end. Then you want to start making marks. And I said 16-inch center, but what you really actually need to put it on is 15 1/4, because your average 2x4 is going to be about 1.5 inches thick. So this way, when you do an 15 1/4, when you go 1.5 inches from 15 1/4, you're going to be at 16 3/4. So the center of the 2x will fall right on that 16-inch mark. So you want to make sure you go at 15 1/4 and basically go back 3/4 of an inch from every 16 inches. Easy to remember that. On most tape measures, they actually mark your 16-inch marks with a red number, whereas the rest of them are black. So it's pretty easy to keep up with what's what. But once you set your mark, take your speed square, put your pencil right where the lines would meet, and strike you a line. Now, I'm going to be going just to the left of that line, and that's the reason I'll put an X right there. And that'll mark that off for me. And that way I'll know where to stick the joist whenever I start to hang it. Okay, so setting the outer frame here, that was not a one-person job. I can't take credit for that. I actually had Andrew over here, and I had Jennifer here as well, helping me kind of get all this stuff in line and get everything leveled out. Once I got it all put together, then I could take and lift one side of a board at a time. That way I could level everything out. But the next section is when you start hanging the joists, and it's a whole lot easier with 2 people, but sometimes you just don't have the extra people to help you out. So I'm going to show you how to do this with just yourself. The easiest way to do it is by using the joist hangers. Now, these are the old ones that I took off the old deck, so I'm recycling these. They're still good. You know, that's good galvanized aluminum. It ain't going nowhere. It ain't gonna rust away and break away that easily. So, the simplest way of doing this is to line up one side of this and set it down a little bit underneath it, because that board is gonna sit right on top of that. You want to give yourself room for the board to sit. Take your screw, once you get everything lined up, take your screw and put it in one hole. And there's a reason that I don't do more than one right now, because there's a very good possibility I'm still going to have to adjust this a little bit, but there's enough there. Well, I may need to put two. Simple fix. Grab another screw. The reason I don't secure this just yet is because I may have to adjust it a little bit here in just a moment. But what we'll go ahead and do, move our ladder in place so that I can do this. Make this a little easier to control when I get there. Look out, Daisy. Go ahead and grab one of the old joists, another part that I'm recycling. Nothing particularly wrong with these. They're a little weathered on the sides that had the boards on them, but turn them over. The undersides are still good. They're still straight. They're still solid. They're not going to rot away. They're protected from the weather for the most part. So what we'll go ahead and do, we'll come right up here. And because I have the ladder on this side, gives me something to hold it on this side. But I've also got the joist sitting in the joist holder right over here. And I can adjust that end once I get this end secured. So we'll go ahead, grab our drill, a couple of screws, line the back side of the ladder, line up the board with the center line that we put in earlier. And pop in your first screw. Then you can make what adjustments you need to make. Go ahead and pop in your second screw. And right now that joist ain't going nowhere. It's solid, it ain't moving, it's right where it needs to be. So now I can come down on this end and adjust this joist just a little bit if it needs to be. And judging by what I'm seeing, it's actually sitting right in the level where it needs to be. I can go ahead and take these screws that I put in earlier and just tighten them up. Now that's just got it hanging there. It's not really secured. So we want to take a couple of screws and go in, one on each side, one low, right here. And one high, right up here. And the reason that I do one low and one high is because the more screws and things you put through the end of this board, the weaker that hold is going to be. You know, you're going to start fraying out the wood, you're going to start splitting it, and it's not going to hold as well as it should. Doing this, I mean, it's solid. Just to prove it, all my weight hanging on it. It didn't budge. And that's the way that it's going to be across the whole thing. And I will. All right, so if you take a look around, I've got this deck pretty much completely framed out. Everything's done on a 16-inch center. The only place where it's going to fall a little off is going to be right at this middle post. The 16-inch center fell right in the middle of the post, and I didn't want to connect a joist to the post unless I was connecting it to the side of the post. So aside from that, we're pretty much framed out. I'm still going to double up the joists on either side of every post, and I still have to connect this cantilever whenever I get it finished putting together. That cantilever is going to go right in front of these two posts right here, and it's going to be bolted to those posts. But speaking of bolts, I've got these carriage bolts here. And I want to make sure that this thing never moves again when I'm done. Easiest way to do that is, now that all these posts are set and they're leveled out, they're plumbed out, everything's ready to go, we're going to take and run a carriage bolt directly through the middle of this, all the way through. Drive it all the way through. Put our washer on. Screw the nut on. And take you a good old-fashioned wrench. And torque it down. A socket wrench would do this a little faster if you felt like doing it that way, but let's try to make it a little easier on myself with the tools that I have. So with that, I've got to do that on all 5 of the other posts, and I will check back when I'm ready to get to that. All right, and with that, every post is set, all the framework is done, and I'm ready to start doing the decking. Give you a quick walk around just to kind of show you what all we had to do. On every post, I have run a bolt all the way through to bolt the frame to it. Did the same thing with the cantilever here. Ran a bolt all the way through so that it could hang on to that. Just to give you an idea how sturdy it is. I mean, it supports all my weight. I'm like 230 pounds. And then I've ran bolts through the backer board. About 5 of them to bolt them to the frame of the house. And I've got these freestanding boards, these freestanding posts here. They're bolted in 2 places, keep them from wiggling around. This is going to be the back post, and this post here is where I'm going to run a set of stairs right down here, so I don't have to walk as far to go around the outside of this deck. Okay guys, so due to some time constraints, basically how long the video was going to turn out, I decided to go ahead and split this video into 2 parts. So we'll cover decking in the 3rd video. So stick around, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.